Um, Once again, just doing a little tribute for my man, Fred. Um, get on here and talk a little bit. Had a couple people on last night. Had James Herbert from CBS
Yes,
Sports
yes.
and Eric Karina just wrote the article at the Athletic a couple of days ago. So I had
Uh-huh.
both of them on here, last night, and they were just kind of sharing some interesting stories about Toronto and the Raptors, and and with Fred and him being, I think, the eighth All Star, from the Toronto Raptors, and kind of went from how a lot of people, they don't think perceived him to, thought he was going to be at this level, and now here he is, at this level. So just wanted to get some people that was around him, right now, and tell their story of how they met him, and what do they do in their relationship with Van Vliet.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for having me, first and foremost. Do I need to share my name and who I am and all
Yes,
that? You want me
yes.
to?
I'd let you
Okay.
go ahead and
All
introduce
right.
yourself.
All right, great. So my name is Derek Folk. I'm the COO of Folk Williams Financial Management, which is a financial firm, business management firm slash financial management firm based out in Los Angeles. And we happen to work very closely with Fred. Our team does on all things that involve money. And so we've been involved with Fred from the beginning. So I think it's safe to say, because most of the listeners, most of the audience, you guys probably have an idea of what Fred's success is today. But I had the fortune of seeing him when it was probably about $79,000. And I think the thing that I would say the most, that um, I watched the guy go from 79,000 to 85 million and become more humble and more concerned and more generous. I've never seen that in my life. That's just the first thing I have to say. I mean, it's astonishing. He's such a great person. And I say that because, we work with a lot of people in sports entertainment, and
Okay.
I see people blessed with tremendous, um, they're given tremendous blessings financially. And I see people blow it. They're not good stewards. I see people who they have a great opportunity to affect the world and people in the world. And sometimes all people need more than money is just somebody to say hi and look at them and smile and encourage them, whatever they do, to be great. And I watch Fred, and, out of everything, it's his personality, it's who he is. It's not, I text him today, matter of fact, and I said it. It's like everything that's happening to him, he deserves, because he's a great person and he's going to be a good steward with it. He's not the person who's going to, if you happen to see him, he's not the person who's going to have a bad attitude and take it out on some fan who just is so excited to see him.
Right.
He's the guy who one day I think will be a politician and make a difference in the world. And he's already doing that. And I think basketball is kind of like his transportation to a destination, and I think he's maximizing that transportation. But out of every characteristic I see in him, more than money or anything else, it's just he's a great human being.
And and he may or may not remember, but I can remember we were leaving from a tournament in Bolingbrook, Illinois. Brian Sinet had hosted a tournament there, and we were in the van. Of course, we were already crammed up, traveling, but we got there, and we're driving down the street, and it's this guy standing there begging, for change and food, and we're kind of like in the traffic jam. So Fred kind of collects a couple of, change and a couple of dollars from everybody. It's like, man, come on, man, just give it. I don't care what you got, just give it. So he rolls down the window and and calls the man over to the van and say, "Here you go, my man," and gave it to him. And he was like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And everybody in the van was like, "Man, what you give him? get that dude there for?" He was like, "Man, come on, man. You don't never know. We may end up, somebody in our family may end up like that one day, whatever." And it was just like little stuff like that. It was just like, at that age, I think we were 15. I think they were on the 15 and under at the time, or 16 and under. But just for him, to even little stuff like that, just to, collect and give it to the guy,
That's who
that
he
was sitting
is
there,
each and every day.
and that's how he is.
Yeah, yeah. It's not something that, it's not something that we all have. It's not something that he he learned. Let me not say that. It's not something that he read a book about and decided he was going to do. This is just who he is and who he's been. And I can see it. I sit next to him and I see how he greets every person he comes in contact with. He makes them feel like they're the most important person in the world. And so, you know, I would imagine in the audience there's some aspiring professional athletes and other professions. And I think what I'm saying to you is, however great you are, always know that people are looking at you, and take a moment to inspire others, and be a person who makes a difference in the world. That's where
And
Fred and I align, because that's what my heart, and that's part of my goal.
now, like I said, you met him, right when he started off. And like you said you didn't see a change, from him being just barely getting into the league and having to fight for that spot to getting I think his second contract. It still hasn't, changed at all. With that being said, how many athletes have you probably dealt with that you would have seen a change, from now they're making this to now they're making millions? Is that something common that you run into, or is he one of the far and few in between that have been smart?
Uh, that have been smart.
Yes.
Um, I think it's far and few in between. I think that when you're blessed with, to whom much is given, much is expected, and you have to be a good steward over what you have. So let's take athletes out of it, right? If a person is a janitor, if a person is a school teacher, whatever you do, the money is relevant to you and it's important to you. So it's a matter of what do you do with it, right? And I think so often what happens is sometimes the people who are advising professional athletes don't relate to them culturally.
Okay.
Okay. And culturally means you have to understand a kid who comes from Rockford. You have to understand a kid who comes from the south side of Chicago. You have to understand a kid who comes from Harlem, right? And you have to understand who they are. And what we focus on is each person as an individual. But I want to make sure I answer your question. Fred is unique. So I see a lot more people who they get the money and they want to spend it, and they spend, and you have to, by knowing them culturally, you have to give them the tools to be able to be successful. And I think the biggest thing that we try to help people understand is, before you ever invest a dollar, what you should do is save a dollar, right? So you're better off if you save a dollar than invest a dollar, because I still got my dollar. If
Right.
I invest a dollar, I could lose it. It could be
Lose it.
worth 50 cents.
Right.
So the first thing I want to do is save my dollar, right? So if I know I'm getting 10 million, I want to save some of that first before I go invest. I got all my life to invest. What I don't have all my life is to keep $5 million or $10 million, whatever that amount is. So a lot of people don't say that to these guys. So they tell them, let's invest your money. And, it works for some people, but I don't think it works for the majority. I mean, the statistics of professional athletes to go broke is greater than 50%, particularly pro athletes of color. And, when we got into this space, part of my thinking was it had to be cultural. It had to be cultural. right? It had to be helping a guy understand, or a person, a young man, a young lady, that, I understand you might want some things, for you or your family, but there's a way to do it. And so taking the time to teach and coach, that's and for a client to hear it. So for somebody like Fred, an athlete, to hear it, that requires their commitment to being a good steward over what they have.
And once again, that goes back to, like you said, just something that's been instilled, something that he has, you know, already. And that's, I think, all the everything that's happened to him is going to continue to happen probably tenfold, just because of that simple, just because of that concept right there. Like I say, he hasn't changed. He hasn't became this arrogant, person. He's still humble. He still reaches back, still, loves the city of Rockford. Is always, talking about the 815. Because you have a lot of athletes that really don't reach back or give back, from where they came from, or nor do they even kind of associate themselves, with, people from there. They get in a whole nother circle, whatever. He's definitely been one. He still has the same group of guys that's been around him. He didn't forget about the Quez and all them guys and Aramis and all them. So he brought them Jordan. He got them right there, Kiefer. He has them, right there with him, and they're enjoying the experience, right along with him. That just tells a lot, about him.
Well, the thing I'd say, and there's a couple things I'd say about that. One is it's beholden to every, and I'm gonna say this, I don't know the audience, but to every man of color who has success, it's our obligation to go back and help those who haven't had it or seen it. All it is exposure. We're just not exposed to it. We're very good tracers, and most of us are geniuses. So if all of a sudden you follow somebody around who's a millionaire, sooner or later it's going to click in, and
Right.
you'll find your path to it, right? But likewise, if I follow somebody who, let's just say, isn't, if I see enough people who isn't on that same trajectory, then there's a good chance I'll gravitate towards that. So, one of the things I talk about when I talk about culture, it's also understanding the community, right? So Fred comes from a community, right? You're part of that community. Um, and the reason the community switches is because if people like me don't look like him, then what's my community look like? It doesn't look like you, right? So I'm
Right.
going to take him around my community. I'm taking him to my community. And before long, that's going to be his community, because he's not going to see that community. But it also has to be something in a person's heart that says it's okay to stay, to bring my community up, right? We're living in a different time today. We've heard about Black Lives Matter, and out of everything that I've heard, and Fred and I share a podcast together called Bet on Yourself podcast. We talk to Black and brown business owners, and you know, it's important that we begin to change the opportunities for people who look like us, all of us. And it's important that we hold people accountable. So when you talk about him bringing all his friends along, if the person who was sitting in my seat was dealing with Fred, then it's important that he has a relationship with Aquez. It's important he has a relationship with Kiefer, right? It's important he
Correct.
has a relationship with Darnell. It's important he has a relationship with you, because this is Fred's community, right? So if I can't be, if I don't have time to do this show, knowing that you were part of helping Fred get there, right?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So that was a rhetorical
Right.
question. You were
Yeah.
part of helping him get
Right.
there, right?
Correct.
So if you spent your gas, your time, and all that helping him get there, then you should see some of the benefit once he gets there. And what's happened in professional sports is, let's be very honest, the people who are reaping the most benefits, they don't look like us.
Right.
They're pulling us away from our community. They're pulling us away from our family. You know, there's something on our website called Family Efficient, and what that is where I want to take time to help, or we want to take time to help the people that are important in Fred's life. So if they have a venture they're trying to do, then let's help them be successful at it. Because if we help them, we're helping him. But if we just want to help him, but we're not helping the people close to him, then we're helping him lose, because he's going to keep taking care of them, right?
Right.
That's the
Right.
problem
Right.
that's happening, right? Is all the professional athletes and entertainers, they get the money, and instead of teaching their family how to fish, they fish for them. And then the advisors they have tell them, oh, they don't know what they're doing. So now, if maybe you don't, right? But how did anybody know what they're doing? They learned, right?
Right.
They
Right.
learned. So everybody's capable. It's just a matter of whether you take the time to teach. So we're big on that. So yeah, Fred's very much about reaching back and keeping people who he started with close to him and helping
And,
see them rise.
and one of the most important things that you said is that normally with our athletes, they get people that don't look like us.
Right.
Somebody has steered them way over here. Then of course now they're gearing them towards their ideals,
Right.
what they want them to do, and then once again, like you said, they're getting away from their communities, from their background, and they're going off helping somebody else, and then they're getting bad. A lot of them are getting bad ideals, bad investment ideals. Because I remember coaching, uh, and I was talking to some of my kids at the middle school, and they just couldn't understand, like, Coach, how do these guys that make all this money just go broke? Like, there's nowhere in the world I can have that much money and end up going broke. So I just gave them an example. I say, just imagine if you made $1 million a year and you went out and bought a house that was $500,000 the first year. Then you bought your mom a house that's $300,000. Then you bought you a couple of cars. Then people, of course, are going to let you get stuff on credit because you getting another $1 million, and they know you. Okay, yeah, he plays sports. He got another million coming. I say, so now to say hypothetically that first year you spent 1.2, you got the million next year. You really at 800,000 because you're already in the hole because you owe. And then if you continue to spend at that level, $1,200 to $1,300, you only really making $1 million. I mean, you spending 1.5, 1.4, 1.6. So the next year you're getting that million, but it's really already accounted for the year before. The next thing you know, you're retired. Now you're in the hole.
Right.
And I had to kind of explain it to him like that. I said, if you overspend what you get, I said, it's just like with your allowance. You get $50 a week or $25 a week in allowance, and then you spend that 25, but you borrow 10 from your friend because I got another 25 coming next week. You don't have that 25 because you got to give him that 10 back, and now you got 15.
Right. Right.
I
Well,
say so.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead. No,
No,
I
I
was
was
just
just
going to
saying that's
say,
how it was. For
right.
me, back then, not knowing all the background from the taxes and things like that. That was just like the simplest way for me to kind of explain it and break it down to them. Which, of course, like you're at a different level and you can sit down and educate. And that's, I think we need more of that of our in our schools, them being educated on financial literacy, which we don't have.
Absolutely. And that's what we're big on. But I'll back up. So let's just start. I created a game called Welcome to the Good Life. I did it for some young kids a few years back, and it was a success. And I named it the Good Life because Kanye West had a song called Welcome to the Good Life, right? And so the first thing I did is I took .com money from the Monopoly version, the .com version of Monopoly, and I gave each kid like 500,000 or 500 million, whatever it was.
Okay.
And as soon as I gave it to them, I said, "Now I want everybody to give me back half." And they said, "Why?" And I said, "Because you got to pay taxes." So to your story, when you said a million is already cut to 500 because
Hmm.
when you after you pay your taxes, you're getting about 40. You're paying about 40 something percent at that income level. About between 48 and 50%, depending on the state you in, is going to taxes. So I had these kids give me the money back, and a number of the kids looked at me and they said, "Well, that's not fair. Like we just starting the game, and we didn't vote on the rules." I said, "Well, that's exactly why you got to vote, right?" But when a professional athlete, when we hear about a professional athlete's contract, you hear a person makes $100 million. First thing you got to do is say they're gonna get 50 million after taxes, depending on the state they in, right? So let's just say 100 million turns into 50. The
Right.
second thing that happens is most of us don't understand our credit, right? So credit, oftentimes I describe there's two types of credit. When when we're when we're when our income is lower and we can barely afford to pay for credit cards and rent and things like that, we talk about credit. And sometimes we have our credit isn't good, our credit scores. And when you start to achieve success, there's another word that's the same as credit. It's called leverage, right?
Okay.
So leverage is smart, right? So if I have good credit and I got this, so let's say I made the 100 million, right? That's my contract. I know I'm going to get what? How much did we say we're going to get? 50 million, right?
Correct.
So now if I have good credit, when I go to buy that house that you spoke about, I'm going to finance that house, right? Because that house note is probably under today's interest rates, that house note's going to be very low, right? So I can afford to pay that. When I don't have good credit, then the people who culturally aren't connected to me is going to say the only way to get that house is you got to pay cash for it, or you got to use a lot of your money, a bigger down payment, right? So instead of me buying a house, let's say I buy $1 million house, so instead of me financing and putting down 100,000, not to get too deep, they convinced me I need to put down 200,000 or 300,000 or 500,000. So now what I'm doing is I'm burning my cash. So when you ask
Okay.
me how athletes go broke, it's because they burn cash, right? So an athlete, let's just say an athlete, for simplicity's sake, he's going to play 10 years and he's going to make $10 million a year. So he'll make $100 million over 10 years, right?
Right.
We know half of that's going to
It's
taxes,
Texas.
but more importantly, if he's busy buying he or she is busy buying cars or houses or jewelry with large chunks of cash, and I say anything $100,000 or more, or even like 50,000, you can't replace that because in 10 years you're not going to be a professional athlete. So nobody's going to pay
Right.
you $10 million a year
Correct.
unless you've planned it out. Let me say that. Unless you've planned out your life and you've done a good job and you're a good steward, then yeah, you can retire and make $10 million after sports. But most people, that's not the story. After sports, they don't make 10 million. Their income falls from 10 million to maybe 100,000 or a couple 100,000. So if I've used all my cash over a 10-year period, that's how I go broke because I bought cars, I bought houses, I've used all my cash. The goal is when you, the goal is of that, whatever amount I get, I'm going to keep my cash and I'm going to borrow from myself.
Okay.
I'm going to be my own bank. And so if I go to buy a house for $1 million, if I got 5 million, I'm gonna use $1 million and I'm gonna be my own bank, but I'm gonna use the bank to facilitate the transaction. So I'm gonna tell them, you hold my million and give me $1 million for that house. Now I'm paying a very low interest rate, but I still got my million in the bank. I'm not using my cash.
Okay. And to that point, those are the things that our athletes or just our black community, we need to know and learn at an earlier age because I think the more you know about it, and then you start like, okay, that makes sense. To make. But unfortunately, we see the fancy cars, we see the jewelry, we see this, and then just go. I'm gonna just pay for it with cash, just pay, and those are the things that we see. Then next thing you know, we looking up that same athlete or that same rapper or entertainer, and you're looking like, how in the world did they go broke? That's insanity. Like, like that shouldn't happen. But like I said, but if you don't know any better, then how are you going to do better? And
Well,
that's that's a good thing that you're doing, and helping and everything. Um, like I said, once again, it kind of goes back to aligning with the right people and doing the right things. Um, Fred has been blessed, and here you are. He could have got some idiot, whatever that was talked him into doing whatever, with his money. But he got a very intelligent young man, just been around the business for a while. That somebody that's African American and smart about the financial industry and teaching him financial literacy and not just being rich, but how to be wealthy, and maintain and continuing on. So generations, down the line, will be set. And it's not a lot of that, as you can see, like you said, because I forgot the exact number of the athletes that end up going broke 4 or 5 years
greater than
after they
fifty
retire.
percent.
You
It's
know that
greater than 50%.
that's sad.
Yeah.
Considering the amount of money that they're bringing in.
Well, what I would say to that, thanks for the compliment, by the way. But what I would say to that is, I'm gonna keep coming back to the word culture. So culture says to me, I'm not a racist. Me personally, I'm not a racist. I believe in all people, but I believe that because of the history of America, sometimes people don't see us. Culturally, if you don't see me and you see my race and you see me as a young black man, you've already made up in your mind who I am.
Hmm.
So sometimes it may be because of your own upbringing, you can't even care about me. And I raise the question, can somebody who doesn't care about somebody educate them? Because see, what I start with, our core values is caring. We care about the people we work with. And as a result, we want to educate them. And every person learns different. Every person, we
Correct.
communicate. They have different communication styles. But for me, um, I can't do what Fred does, right? I couldn't go shoot the threes he shoots or take over a game at the end, and certainly not gonna die for the ball and get my eye cut, no. But here's the thing that I will say. So I say that to say that where where I would bet our house and I would bet everything that we stand for, it's when he gets to the end, right? Whenever the end comes for Fred, and it's going to be difficult enough because most professional athletes are entertainer. When it's the end, it's difficult because you've been doing it for so long. Whether Fred will be that person, I don't know. But what I can tell you is it'll be a lot easier when you check your bank account and you know that, hey, in my career I earned 200 million and I got a good 100 million of it because I made some good decisions and the people along the way advised me. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's like our firm has been around for 60 years, over 60 years. And
Okay.
so I think the fact that we've been around a long time means we've given some people some really good advice. And that's where it shows up. It shows up when he retires. I mean, it matters now, don't get me wrong, but it really matters when he retires. And so I say all of that to say that I have to have a long-term perspective and he enjoys that same long-term perspective. So our meetings and our discussions aren't about just short-term things. There's these short-term things, but listen, we sit down and dissect this contract and then say, okay, here's how much, back to what we said, 100 million, you're gonna get 50.
Hmm.
And it's like, there's this thing we do where it's like, well, how much you want to see in the bank? Okay. And so he puts his name down and he signs and says, 50, I'm gonna have X, right? And nobody's doing that for our athletes. Nobody's doing that. They're just telling them what to do, right? And if I tell you what to do, I'm not helping you learn.
Correct.
The goal is I'm gonna help you learn, so I'm gonna work myself out of a job. And some people think if I give you information, well, here's how I think or how our firm thinks. I'm going to give you information. And if I give you information, that empowers you.
Correct.
Some people think that if I empower you, that makes me weaker. I think it makes me stronger because I'm
Oh,
more
for sure.
valuable to you,
Because you
right?
want more
I'm more
knowledge.
valuable to you.
You want more knowledge.
But people don't, if people don't culturally connect with us, they don't think we want knowledge. They think we want them to do it for us. And so they leave us starving, right? They leave us starving. They leave us empty. And then our bank accounts end up empty and nobody's taking responsibility, right? See, when we started doing this, I was like everybody else asking the question, why are they going broke? And then I saw something that I saw Jay-Z on Jimmy Fallon one night, I think it was. And Jimmy Fallon, as Jay-Z said, this is when Jay first started Rock Nation, and said, hey, what do you think about these athletes going broke? And what he was really asking is, what do you think about all these young black men going broke? And
Right.
Jay-Z said, I'm not really worried about them. I'm more concerned about the people that they're trusting to manage their money, right? And so for me, already paying attention to what we're doing and where our successes are as a firm, I said I want to take our firm into pro sports. I think we can make a difference. So we came into the space to represent professional athletes to make a difference, to show that if you care about the guys and you educate them, first, if you care, they'll know you care.
Correct.
That's the first thing. And then because you care, you have an ability to speak to them a little bit differently than the person who doesn't care. Because when people don't care about us, we know it and we respond accordingly.
Right. And that's just a life lesson. You
Yes.
and you picked that up early. But to your point, the more it's crazy because even in the coaching world, some coaches won't even share best practices or tips because they're gonna feel that, oh, you're stealing all my stuff, and so now I'm not going. Everybody's going to go to you now instead of coming to me. Whatever. It's like, no, the more you branch out, the more you're telling, they're going to keep coming back because they're going to want that knowledge because they know, okay, hey, this person is experienced. And then on top of that, you can look and see all your lessons being taught spread out more and more because the more people that come to you and get something, you're going to look back and say, hey, all right, at least I know somebody listened to me because they're passing on the lessons, the life lessons that I taught them, and they're passing them on to the next person. So at least I know if I told 50 people and half of them are now going out telling at least 5 people, that's a win.
Hmm.
That's a win, and they're gaining more knowledge. But like to your point, some people don't think like that, and they like, no, I'm just gonna keep everything for myself.
Hmm.
And once again, that's not doing anything but making the people weaker. Our culture weaker, so to speak. And with especially like I said in the financial part, in the financial world, growing up, first thing, hey, what do you want to be? Uh, NFL player, NBA player, or be a rapper, but once again, nobody's talking about, okay, if when you start making this money, what are you gonna do with it? Because the first thing, so I'm buy a house, I'm buy my mama a house. you know, those are a couple. Then they start buying all this jewelry, but like you said, nobody's teaching them how to invest and later save first and then start investing later after you have your savings put up to the side, building up your credit and everything like that. Nobody's doing that. So that's just a blessing that you came along and Fred's for what I've known him is a damn great judge, a character. He definitely picked a good person to be in his corner, and be his business manager or financial manager, and help him, along the way. Because fortunately, like you said, over 50% of them didn't have somebody like you. They had
Right.
somebody to help their pockets get lined up while their pockets were getting thinner.
Right.
You know, uh,
Yeah.
Now, do you all now? With that being said, are you all doing any type of classes? Are you trying to branch out? Do you go into the schools, or are you getting meant? Because other night I had a show on, and I had several of my former players, and I just told them, I said, the Fred Van Vliet story is great. It's phenomenal. The James Robinson, from the Jaguars, the Dean Lowry, that's absolutely great, fantastic. But that's far and few in between. But what you all are doing is three young black gentlemen: Marco Walker, Oliver Emerson, and I had Shelton Little on there. All of them are in the financial industry. Oliver is running the program now. He's doing a mentorship, and getting people to come, teaching kids, about stocks, and everything, and crypto, and saving, and compared to investing. So he's doing a lot of things like that. One of them is vice president of a bank. The other one is general manager. So they're into that realm, and like they said, they was like nobody was sitting up talking about, oh man, I'm gonna be the best banker ever. I'm gonna be the best financial investor, ever. But it just happened to occur. So are those some things that you all may be looking into doing, just to branch out and helping others, or are you all doing anything like that with the athletes?
You mean us as a firm, or
Yes,
Fred
as
and
a
I?
firm.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Yep. Just
Yeah, as a
you as a
firm,
firm.
as
Yep.
a yeah, as a firm, we definitely do it. I mentioned a game that that I created called "Welcome to the Good Life." I'll come back to it, but yes, we definitely do a lot of speaking. Um, you know, a lot of our clients ask us all the time to either speak to their family, speak at different associations. We speak in schools. Our next thing is writing books and really getting it out there, because for us it's very simple. I mean, it's great when somebody teaches somebody to invest, but you know that's I don't want to say that's easy, but I always say we have to teach people how to save. Just be a good steward over your money. Like if you can get a person who gets $1 to keep $1, that's when I think it matters, right? We can always invest. The problem is people of color, we have no dollars. We have no dollars. So we gotta start with the basic. The basic foundation is keep your money. And once you get past that, then go invest, right? Because now let's just say I save $1 every day for a year. I would have $365, right?
Correct.
Now, if somebody comes to me and says, I want you to invest, or you're thinking about investing, I'm not going to bet my whole $365. I'll bet, maybe I'll bet $5, maybe I'll bet $20. I won't bet everything I got, because I got to keep my cash, right? So for me and what I see, and I deal with thousands of people at all levels, at all income levels, what I tell people is keep your cash. The most successful people I see, they have cash, right? So I start with that, because now if I have cash, and I think of money as a pie, or I think of assets as a pie, right? So if I got a pie, it's a circle, right? And I can get 8 slices, I can get four, I can get, depending on how big I cut them slices,
Right.
I can get something out of that pie, right? So when you think about it, a pie, a part of your pie should be cash. A part of your pie should be investments. A slice of the pie should be investments like stocks and bonds. For some people, a slice of the pie might be real estate, right? For some people, it might be other investments. They may decide that they're going to invest in a franchise or some other business with somebody. So you have these slices. And it's just up to every one of us to understand the largest slice you want to have until you learn how to really do all these other things well. The largest slice should be your cash while
Okay.
you're learning how to because you got to learn how to manage that slice over here that's in stocks and bonds, right? Because otherwise you put your money in stocks and bonds, you lose.
You're
You
gonna
got to
lose it.
learn how to manage. You got to learn how to manage the slice. If I'm going to go into a franchise, I got to manage that slice. If I'm going to go into business with my brother or my sister or my friend, they want to open up a nightclub, hey, a restaurant. I hear a lot of people say that hardest businesses in the world. So I got to before I do that, I got to learn to manage that slice. Because guess what? If my whole slice is that restaurant or my whole slice is stocks and bonds, then I'm in trouble. But if I got a big, big slice of cash and then these other slices are small, I could sustain myself. Because what we're trying to do, no matter who you are, what you are, is create a sustainable life, right?
Correct.
So if you drive a Mercedes today, you want to drive, if you're in your 20s today and you drive a Mercedes, you want to drive a Mercedes when you're in your 30s. You want to drive a Mercedes when you're in your 40s. You want to drive a Mercedes when you're in your 50s, when you're in your 60s. It we've had this thing like we run really hard in our 20s, and then you get to 30 and some people don't have it no more. And then, some people make it from 20 to 30. And you look up when they get to 40, they don't have it no more. The goal is sustainability to sustain your life. So as you go through life, whatever you've acquired or that you enjoy, that you're still enjoying it and your life is on an upward trajectory as opposed to bam, so.
And crashing, and kind of going off what you were just talking about. How is it, and how was it working with um, Fred? Did he just catch on right from the start? Was that something like, you had to kind of embed, or he was just like, hey, this is what I want to do? Was it easy? Because I know everybody loves, everybody we talked about, just like how intelligent, how business savvy, and how smart he is, and how he's all on top of his business. Was it an easy sale with him, talking him into, that concept?
Well, I would say it was never a sale. It was more so we discuss things. It's not
Okay.
me telling him. I'm sharing information. I like to share information, and Fred's a smart guy. And I think one of the first things that he and I shared was an idea about let's just put away a bunch of money. One of our good friends calls it sleep at night money, right? Where you're not waking up in the middle of the night thinking like, shit, where's my money? Or excuse my French, where's my money?
Yes, I don't care.
Um, and so we talked about some philosophies. He shared his, I shared some, and and so I think that's where we're good at is I'm not a person who believes in telling somebody what to do. I'm a person who believes in let me give you some information, and then you and so when you ask me what did he buy in, I'd say yeah, he bought in because I gave him information and he went back and he marinated on it, or in some instances he was like, okay, that's what we're gonna do, and but it was all about let's just put away everything first, and then even once he started investing, like we sit and we listen to people, we go back and forth. It's not just what's on paper, it's also what's in our spirit, and neither one of us
Right.
are ever in a rush. So that's what's really funny is like, somebody will hit him and say, hey, this needs to happen right away, or they'll hit me, and we both kind of move the same way. Like I've always had the feeling if it's a good deal today, it'll be a good deal tomorrow. And if it's not, then, hey, all right, so be it. But, when you're in his position, everybody's got a deal for you. There's nobody, and nobody's going to tell you they're going to lose. Everybody's going to tell you, I got the most winningest deal.
Right.
It's
Right.
like everybody who got drafted before him, right? Everybody thought those were the ones, right? And the one that was him, right? They didn't see him coming. So we just take our time and we discuss things, and we both are avid readers. So we read. He tells me some things like, "Hey, I'm reading this book. Check it out." He doesn't even have to tell me. If he says he's reading it, then I got to read it. If I'm reading it, he'll read it, and we just and it's an evolving relationship. I mean, like, um, we're friends, but I work for him. You know what I mean? So I'm a partner. You call it. It's a lot of different relationships that we share, but ultimately I work for him in a capacity, and so I'm trying to give him as much information as possible, and then I'm challenging him. Like, I can remember sitting in a Ritz Carlton or a Four Seasons in Toronto, and I'm like, how do we go buy these? Like, not how, but this is what we got to do. We got
Right,
to,
right.
this whole little area that we're looking at with all these five-star hotels. I have this thing personally that it probably bothers me more than anything in the world. I've had a lot of great success in life, and I've been able to enjoy a lot of things, but why do I have to go to certain parts of any town to enjoy those things, and other parts of town I can't go enjoy those things? That bothers me. That bothers me. It bothers me that a Ritz Carlton isn't on the south side of Chicago, right? Why isn't a Ritz Carlton on the south side of Chicago? And the only reason I use Chicago is because I don't know the dividing lines in Rockford, but
Right.
all across America we got these dividing lines, and we
Correct.
say let's go to Beverly Hills. Don't go to Inglewood. Let's go to Beverly Hills. Let's go to Michigan Avenue. Don't go to South Side of Chicago. Let's go down. Let's go downtown in New York. Don't go to Harlem. Why? Who drew those boundaries?
And
And it's
then
up to every.
we automatically think it's negative.
Well, what happens is they think it's they. I don't want to say they think of it. What they've done is they put a label on it, and
Correct.
that label has said, we're not taking capital over there. So we're not going to build a Ritz. We're not going to make nice restaurants. We're not going to make nice schools. We're not going to make nice things. And, we all know what that gets us. We all know how we feel when we wake up looking at that. I know how I feel. I got some friends here in Los Angeles. When we talk about going out to eat, they're like, we're not going to Soho House. We're not going to all these lavish places that they built up, right? And a lot of times they build it with our money. And then we have to go back with our friends and our cousins and our family or where we live, and we see this unfairness. So, my challenge to Fred and every person I work with is, what are we gonna do about it? You know, what are we gonna do? We're gonna build this a hotel. We're gonna build an apartment building and be the first ones. I live in Los Angeles. Magic was the first one, right? Magic
Okay. Yeah.
Magic created Magic did a movie theater and a coffee house in a neighborhood that it wasn't deemed as um, a great investment. Well, what is a great investment? Something that just makes money? What about something that feeds the soul of people or makes America a better place?
Correct.
So,
And and it's so funny that you said we were just talking about once again on a basketball side of things, even with tournaments, the tournaments that most of the teams are going to are not the big tournaments are not ran by people that look like us, but majority of the teams are coached by people like us. But they're reaping a lot of the benefits where we got to keep shelling out these dollars, whatever, where they're steady raking in dollars. And once again, it goes to the point that, what are we going to do about it? And it was just funny. Me and a couple of coaches just talking about that. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to keep, you know, complaining about it and going, or are we going to do something about it?
and you got
You
to do
know,
something about it.
yeah,
It behooves all of us. Listen, America's this thing. When it comes to economics, there's pimps and there's hoes, and we've been getting pimped. And we need to all wake up and realize we're getting pimped, right? I sat at a football game in Cincinnati, maybe about 5, 6 years ago. One of our clients played for the Bengals. I just happened to be sitting next to another brother, and we was just talking back and forth watching the game. But then he said something to me. He said, I asked him, was his son playing? He like, no, I got 2 or 3 players that I coach that are on the field. They're on different teams. And I remember saying to him, how come you're not a pro coach? Right. And what I would challenge anybody, and this goes to what Brian Flores is suing the NFL over right now, right? I salute him and I support him, right? Because we all have to wake up, right? I venture to say that probably greater than 50 to 70% of young black men in this country who play NFL or NBA, playing NFL or NBA, and maybe even baseball, right? The people who taught them to play the game and become a pro look like them. But how do you all of a sudden get to the pros and nobody who looks like you is coaching? Where did the knowledge that gave you the skill to make it there? Are you telling me that knowledge went somewhere? Like all those guys went somewhere? But listen, if we don't stand up like Brian Flores is, if a bunch of us don't start standing up for all these things that we see when it comes to this, what it is it's an injustice, right? But where it really shows up is economically, because that person who gets that head coaching job makes several $100,000. He gets to go spend that money in a community of people that look like him. If it's Brian Flores, you hope that Brian and people who look like him are going to spend it with people who look like him. And so now there's capital, there's money to fix our schools, to pay for health care, to change our communities, to build a Ritz
Correct.
Carlton. Right? There's an economic base. America has left black people made America the richest country in the world. Right? We helped make this the richest country in the world, no matter what anybody ever tells you. Right? And what's happened is the wealthier America has gotten, the less America has wanted to share that with the people who helped make it happen. We're not
Bingo.
asking for anything. We help make this happen.
Right.
Like we help build this. And so now what we have to do is when we have industries like the NBA or something like that, NFL, where we're a predominant force, we have to we have to shut it down and say, what part of this ecosystem are we getting to eat off of? It's not just the salaries, it's the tickets, it's the parking, it's the jerseys, it's everything. How much of that are we getting? I ask people all the time. It's economics. And
Very
so,
little.
those economics, I mean, one thing I feel like we can celebrate, the Super Bowls in Inglewood. Inglewood's a predominantly black community. That's going to bring a lot of money to that community. The mayor of Inglewood is a brother, is black,
Okay.
So I'm sure he's going to make sure that a lot of that revenue stays right there in that community. So that's a good thing for the NFL that they're holding it, but it's a bad thing that the coaches that have been hired since Brian Flores filed this case are still white.
They trying to sneak one in there. They trying to sneak Lovey in with the Texans.
Yeah.
but
And,
now
and
kind
listen, we're so far behind on everything. We're, when you say why things are like, I've always said I don't understand why AAU programs starve if the AAU programs are creating these top-notch athletes. The problem is their advisors are not telling them that they can make a charitable contribution to the AAU program and make it go forever. Make it go forever. So we just have to become a little bit wiser about what we see in society. We have to call it out, and and then we have to make sure that the things that we're asking for and we're doing are pointing those economics at us more.
right now,
It
and
doesn't mean everybody else can't participate, but we need to participate more.
hey, And I'm 1000% with you because it's not happening enough. And kind of going off what you said, you read books. Um, what do you think, and how do you think this correlates with today? Because I know he wrote it a while ago. I think it was William Broughton, the $40 million slave.
Well, um, I think that I just went to an art exhibit. There's an amazing art exhibit traveling America. It's called the Kinsey Collection. It
Okay.
is the most, it's the largest, it's the largest Black slash African American historical art collection in the world. And I say historically significant because I went to Pepperdine yesterday to see the collection. Um, and the family that does it, they do a narration of it before you see the art. And the significance of it is it's telling our story and it's showing who we are. But um, there's so much significance to it that we need to understand that we were the jockeys, right? We were the jockeys. And what happens is because race matters so much, when people start seeing us benefiting too much, they'll change the rules. That's what happened to the jockeys. It made sense that the jockeys, the first jockeys, were black, right? Because we were the farm hands. We managed the field, right? We
Right.
spent time with the horse, right? So it made sense that we would be the jockeys. But then along the way, you don't see any black jockeys, very few, if any, right?
Right.
They changed the rules. They changed the rules, right? They got rid of us. You know, I think it's a little bit harder in basketball, but listen, the what happens to us in America is whenever we adapt, and we will adapt quickly, then what happens is the rules are changed, right? The rules are changed. It's it I call capitalism in America, it's like being the house for a dice game, right?
Right.
So when you're the house, you get to set the rules, right?
Right.
So American capitalism is a monopoly game, and the powers to be are in charge of that, and they manipulate the rules all the time. They manipulate them in their favor, right? That's how they did housing for years. They basically gave large builders a lot of money and said the only requirement the government gave them the money, and the only requirement was black people can't live in that community. So they built up communities all over the world. I mean, all over the country. And with those
That's
communities,
crazy.
those people bought those houses, and they got equity, right? So your parents lived in one neighborhood, and they lived in another neighborhood, house the same size, 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom, 1,500 square feet, and their house is worth 300,000 and your parents' house is worth 25 or $35,000. Well, that equity that they had, they took that and started a business. And we're over there struggling to get money to paint our house. And when we go get a loan, they tell us because of the neighborhood we live in, the loan should cost more. You know, so
Right.
so so the rules of capitalism are constantly shifting. I one of the things I'll tell you is I feel like a couple of years ago when we had a different president, there was a president who changed all the tax laws, and he called the NFL players sums of what, right?
Right.
And I feel like him and some of his friends got together and realized the people who are going to pay for the change in tax law was going to be professional athletes because he told us what he thought of them. But professional athletes didn't see it. And none of their advisors were telling them. They took away all their deductions. They're the highest paid citizens in America. Professional athletes are the highest paid citizens in America. Nobody else makes $10 million a year. And the people, the other, well, let me not say that. The other people who make that kind of money, guess what? They either own companies, so they get
Right,
to
right,
structure that $10 million.
right.
The only person with a W-2 that's paying the kind of taxes pro athletes pay are athletes. And and we know in two sports who are most of the athletes. They're
Football,
black men.
basketball. Yeah,
They're black men,
yeah.
right? So we just, there's that saying about staying woke, but we have to stay woke because they'll change the rules back to your original question, and we will find ourselves being the 40 million. And listen, I'd love to be a $40 million slave, right? In today's world, I can make a difference with my 40 million because I can buy houses. I can help educate others. I could do a lot of things. So, um, I've read the book. I have the book on my shelf, but I don't want to belittle what professional athletes get. It's a great thing, but I think it really comes down to how they use it, and what they
Correct,
learn to do with it. Yeah, yeah. So,
correct. Yeah.
mhm.
Well, that's the that's one of the things that definitely needs to get talked about. And I'm certainly glad that um, Fred has a person like you in his corner, and of course he's going to become wiser. Um, with people like you in his corner, and he's going to be able to go out because I know it, like he's going to be able to go out and continue, what you're teaching him and what on top of what he already knows, and branch on and pass it on down to little Fred and and generations to come, and then the people around him. He's going to be educating them like, hey, listen, like you said, I'm not going to fish for you. I'm going to teach you how to. So therefore, I don't have to continue to keep going fishing for you because one, if I have to keep doing it for you, I'm gonna wear out, I'm gonna wear down, whatever. It's kind of like in the book. I don't know if you read the book of Habitudes, with the story of the starving baker that took care of everybody except for himself.
Mhm.
So those are the type of things like, hey, now if he'd have been teaching some more people how to do it, and then he wouldn't have ended up in the situation that he was in. But once again, you got people like you in his corner. Um, so I know he'll be well taken care of, for many, many, many moons to come. And then you all continue to do the great job that you're doing. I met one of the young ladies that y'all had on the podcast, uh, um, Harpreet, I believe.
Oh, Harpreet,
Yeah,
Harpreet.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, Great person.
she teaches financial literacy.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought I told her that was great, and she was talking about how they want to branch out and get into some classrooms and with younger people, which is going to be huge. It's going to be big time, and as long as they call him, Frederico continues to put up the numbers that he's doing in the basketball world, he's going to continue to make uh, numbers outside the basketball world. And then like he got somebody like you in his corner, so he'll continue to have it, and he won't turn around and be retired and be turned around looking like where's my next dollar coming from.
That's not gonna happen to him. I can guarantee that. I can guarantee that. That's not gonna be him.
Well, I
He's gonna when he hangs them up, he's gonna probably sit back and think about what's next. He's already in his mind. I know Fred's already looking 10 years out, but I would expect to see him running some stuff, some really big stuff, and impacting the world. It's just who he is.
yeah, I definitely can see that. That's just once again it'll be one of them. Well, he can't do it, and so they said he couldn't do it, so he's gonna go prove everybody wrong and do it and make it happen just because somebody said he couldn't do it.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so, but I want to thank you for taking the time, as I told everybody. Fred has a lot of great people in his life, a lot of great people in his corner. Uh, that's helping him. And staying on the straight and narrow. And you are definitely one of those people. So I just want to tell
Thank
you
you.
thank you for taking the time out. And once again, because you could have been like, man, I ain't going on there with you. I don't have time for that. Uh, but definitely thank you very much. And hopefully I'll be able to get out there to your way pretty soon. Um,
Sounds good.
and
All right.
give you a visit and actually meet you face to face. So no,
I look forward
we in
to it.
talk. All right. Well, thank you very much. You and send some of
Thank
that
you.
weather
Thanks
over
for
here.
having me.
I
All right,
appreciate you
will
coming
do.
on. All right.
All right.